This is Adam Bernard with AutoPerspectives, and we're back again for another news roundup. It's a little slow last week, but there are a few things worth talking about. At the very end, we're going to do a little kind of future-oriented speculation. So let's dive right into it with the revival of Audi's A2. Now, we've been hearing about this project for a while. We've finally seen prototypes on test, and so we now have an artist's impression of what this vehicle will look like when it is unveiled later this year. The A2 was the name of one of the most innovative small cars that we've seen for quite a while. This is the all-aluminum aero-focused small hatchback that was launched in 1999. The new model, which will officially be the Audi A2 e-tron, and they have confirmed the name, will be revealed later this year and will replace both the A1 and the Q2 in Audi's showroom. So it will be the smallest Audi on the market. But unlike its predecessor, it will only be available as an EV. Underneath the A2 e-tron will be Volkswagen Group's MEV architecture. So it'll share hardware with the VW ID3 Neo, Audi Q4 e-tron, and Skoda Elroq, among others. We are expecting to see multiple power options, perhaps as high as 320 horsepower for perhaps an S2 variant, and battery sizes up to 79 kilowatt hours. That big battery will get them a European range of about 403 miles, roughly 350 miles on the EPA cycle, although we do not expect to see this vehicle showing up here in North America. It's an interesting choice here by Audi. There's really no clear competition from Mercedes or BMW. Their vehicles don't get as small or as affordable as the A2. And Audi's actually announced a starting price of about 38,000 euros. That's a good 10,000 euros cheaper than the Mercedes CLA 200. Now, we know that Mercedes is working on a revival of the A-Class as well, so that may get Mercedes closer to this price point here as the A2. It is a 400-volt architecture as well, suggesting a DC charge rate maxing out at about 180 kilowatts. So, they seem to have picked up some of the flavor of the original car. And again, given all the concerns about affordability these days, this is a somewhat more affordable vehicle. Although, of course, as a luxury brand, 38,000 euros is definitely not cheap, just a little less than the average price of a new vehicle these days. Also expected to be revealed later this year is something that we had talked about more recently as the next generation Range Rover Velar. And as it turns out, the vehicle that we thought was the Range Rover Velar instead becomes a new addition to the portfolio while the 9-year-old Velar continues. And it will be called the GT, and it's the first entry off the new EMA platform. And it's almost harkening back to a vehicle that had been rumored a few years back called the Road Rover. And as you can see from the artist's impression here, it is very, very car-like. It is definitely quite a bit different from the kind of the tall, upright look of a standard Range Rover. It will launch as an EV with a hybrid to follow, and it does pick up some of the classic Range Rover cues, including the blacked out greenhouse, the clamshell hood, and the fender decor. You may be wondering about the name, and yes, it is just called the GT, not blank GT or none such GT, just plain old GT. So like the Mercedes AMG GT or the Ford GT or the Toyota GR GT, but in this case, it's an SUV. A tall SUV, but Range Rover describes this as a Grand Tourer, but it adds a high-air seating position and all-terrain capability, which raises the question of whether or not you have a jack of all trades and a master of none, and whether this really deserves the GT moniker. That aside, it is kind of a unique profile. You could almost argue that this might serve better as a Jaguar SUV because, of course, their new slogan is "Copy Nothing." But at the moment, it's done up as a Range Rover, so that's how we will be living with it when it launches later this year. Price point is reportedly close to 6 figures, so definitely not a Velar competitor. In addition, it's also expected to have a larger footprint than the current Velar, and so that'll put it up against vehicles like the new BMW iX5 and the Porsche Cayenne Electric. Now, while the exterior images that you see here are artist impressions based on a camoed vehicle that Range Rover showed us, they didn't give us a clear shot of the interior. And it shows what you might call a reductive or a minimalist design and a layout that's handsome. But to be honest, I think you could find this at any number of premium Chinese SUV these days. You've got the square steering wheel, you have the high-mounted IP cluster that's mounted sort of far forward, so you look over the top of the steering wheel, and a large center landscape-oriented touchscreen and concealed air vents. So while it is good-looking, there's not a lot here that says British or Range Rover, at least to me. It is noted that non-leather materials are standard, And you'll note that unlike BMW and Audi, there's no passenger side display. So they have decided to kind of keep things a little simple on the inside. Unfortunately, they seem to have missed the memo about the industry move back to physical controls. You'll note that there are essentially no physical controls aside from the stalks on either side of the steering wheel. There's a big center touchscreen, and there are steering wheel mounted haptic controls. So not maybe as good from an ergonomic standpoint as some of the other vehicles that are out there. But perhaps this is something that Range Rover will address at a mid-cycle update. So stand by for the official reveal and all the real specs a little later this year. And speaking of JLR, while we wait for the Range Rover GT to launch, we now have quite a bit of information on the Freelander 8. This is the first entry in the Freelander brand. This is the joint venture between JLR and Chery. So Chery, the Chinese automaker, provides the hardware and the software and the manufacturing capability, and Land Rover, of course, provides all the design, targeting China, the Middle East, and Europe. Now, we'd seen a concept vehicle a few months back, and over the past month or so, details on the production Freelander 8 first entry are now out. Additional partners for JLR and Chery include Qualcomm, who are providing the chips, and Huawei, who are also helping out with the software. This is a large vehicle. It's actually larger than any other Land Rover. It's around the size of a long wheelbase Range Rover, so it competes with the latest wave of full-size VFI premium SUVs in China, as well as vehicles like the BMW X7, the Mercedes GLS, and the Audi Q9. You note the diagonal D-pillar, the triangular window, and the strong shoulder that echo the original Land Rover Freelander, which at one point was kind of the entry-level model, but now we see it spun off as a separate brand. Freelander notes the debossed badging you can see there on the tailgate. That's formed through a 4mm deep groove process inspired by European castle stone masonry. So even though there are a lot of Chinese roots here, they're also trying to maintain a connection to Europe as well. You also note the flag style side mirrors that offer a 30% larger viewing area, but with aerodynamic shaping, so you get some additional functionality there. It will launch as an e-Rev initially with a 60 kilowatt hour battery and a 1.5 liter turbocharged range extender. That'll give them the EPA equivalent of about 100-mile range. It is an 800 volt architecture, which means the battery should charge in less than 15 minutes. It also has automated driving that's supported by high definition LiDAR. This LiDAR sensor can identify a 14 centimeter object from 120 meters away. So some pretty sophisticated hardware and software. Once we get inside, we see the panoramic intelligent display. This is now the industry's largest at 46.3 inches, so even bigger than you'll get in a BMW 7 Series, and it's also one of the brightest. It also features faceted crystal knobs and physical buttons, allegedly inspired by the Clou de Paris craftsmanship found in top-tier luxury watches. So, unlike Range Rover, the folks at Freelander did get the memo about putting real physical controls back inside the vehicle. The 8K resolution of the display is 4 times higher than competing 4K screens. The cabin also features open pore real wood trim, recycled aluminum for additional trim, and Napa leather upholstery. So I mentioned BMW and Mercedes as key competitors, and it looks like it's got the materials to compete there as well. The second row features available fully reclining seats. The manufacturer actually refers to the space as the Downton Abbey living room, as well as a ceiling-mounted screen. So while you're fully reclined, you can look up at the ceiling and watch a movie. Both those seats feature heating, ventilation, and 16-point massage. The interior also has a 23-speaker Harman Kardon audio system with dual-layer acoustic glass and active noise cancellation. So if you are an audiophile, you will probably appreciate all of that hardware. And we'll finish up with some speculation about JLR. As they struggle to reboot the Jaguar brand and they launch the Freelander brand, they are now turning to opportunities in the US market. And so what they've done about a month or two ago was sign a memorandum of understanding with Stellantis to, quote, explore collaboration opportunities to create synergies across product and technology development, leveraging the company's complementary strengths to create value for both organizations. In plain English, that means that JLR leadership has suggested that the Defender family, which will be getting the new entry-level Defender Sport next year, might get an additional US-focused and US-built variant that could leverage an existing Stellantis architecture to, quote, significantly help JLR tap into adjacent segments where they're currently not present. And that's according to JLR's Chief Strategy Officer. Now, with that in mind, I called on some of the AI tools that are out there to look at what they might decide to do. One alternative is to go big. And so what we have here is the speculative Defender 200 as rendered by Gemini. This would be a full-size SUV off the Ram and Wagoneer architecture that could slot above the current three-row midsize Defender 130. So it would take on vehicles like the BMW X7 and the Mercedes GLS. And it's definitely an off-road capable platform, so there's no doubt that it would be capable of doing what you expect a Defender to do. Using the Hurricane twin-turbo six-cylinder would let the upcoming Ram Charger keep the Hemi as an exclusive. Of course, the only downside is that the Ram Charger and the Grand Wagoneer are big moneymakers for Stellantis. And would they want to give JLR a piece of this action, even for a vehicle that is even more premium priced than a high-end Grand Wagoneer? Another option, which I've called Defender Alpha, is a more rugged and affordable two-row midsize Defender. This would slot below the Defender 110 and above the Defender Sport, and would target vehicles like the Ford Bronco. With Ram's new midsize Dakota pickup launching in 2027 off a body and frame architecture, JLR could develop an SUV off that same hardware and build it alongside the Dakota in Toledo. Of course, that would put it in direct competition with the Wrangler, kind of an iconic vehicle for the Jeep brand, but a more refined execution might help minimize cannibalization. Finally, Defender EV. We know that Land Rover and Range Rover are all working on electric variants. The Defender Sport will include an electric variant, and the next generation Defender is expected to offer electric power as well. JLR has indicated plans for more electric SUVs for the US. So another source here is the Stella Large architecture, which underpins the upcoming Jeep Recon and the already in-market Wagoneer S. Given the volumes of the Stella Large EVs, it might make better use of Stellantis' plant in Toluca, Mexico. But again, with the next generation Defender due to get EV power in the next 2 to 3 years, you may not really need to go down this path. You might create a vehicle that's just too close in size and capability to an electric MLA-based Defender. So that would make this vehicle a bit on the redundant side. Again, nothing etched in stone. These are all highly speculative, and there may be a few other options that JLR is considering, but these were the three that were top of mind for me. That brings us to the end of this week's Auto Perspectives News Roundup. If you liked what you saw and heard, please subscribe and share. Visit AutoPerspectives.net, check out the blog, and look for me on LinkedIn and Substack. Thanks for watching and listening, and I'll see you back here in 7 days. So long.